This case is an H700i, and the I means that it's a smart case. And what that means is that it comes with this little box here, which is a controller for fans and lights. I wasn't particularly looking for that feature in a case, but they were out of stock of the ones that didn't have the I at the end. So I went ahead and got this one because I could get it. But I don't really need that feature, and I'm not going to use it. So the next thing I'm going to do is unplug that. This motherboard is capable of running the fans and the lights on its own. And the ROG Light software, Aura, has better product reviews than this, which uses software that I think is called CAM. So I'm just going to use the built-in one in the motherboard. So I'll be unplugging these because I don't need them plugged into that box. So this one's lights. I will use that, but it's going to plug in over here in the motherboard. And these are fans. And I think these aren't actually the fan cables, these are fan extensions. Each one of those wires has multiple fan connections on the back side. I'm probably just going to leave the box there because it's not in my way and it's mostly hidden by the painted piece that I have. But I want to plug the fans into the motherboard instead of into that. So the next thing I think I'm going to do is lights because, well, they're here. Okay, so the lights are this cable. Well, I guess you guys can't quite see what I'm doing there. Unbent this little tab right here just a little bit. Its purpose is to hold these wires in place. There we go. Okay, so this is power for more wires. Let me hang that back there for a minute. This is power for this set of lights. So this is the one that plugs into the motherboard. And this one says RGB header, the white one there. So how do I want this cable to run? Let's see. There we go. Boy, that first try I had it on 3 of the pins and one was sticking out the side. Guess you gotta watch out for that. Actually, I think I might want to run that a different direction. There's a window right here for cables to pass through, and I think that would be a better place for the cable to go. I just have to figure out how to get it over there. Let's stand this back up. I could always cut holes in the case and enlarge holes, but that's more work than I want to do right now. Alright, that's on. And double checking my fan connection there. So the fan connection's here. And the light connection's right there. Alright, let's go back around to the other side for a minute. Try to get this where everyone can see it here. So these are the 3 fan things that I just disconnected from that box. This wire is the rear fan. Alright, that one looks like the front fan's plugged into it. This one is not connected to anything at all. And this one is connected to the rear fan. Okay, so the rear fan doesn't really need to be connected to this big extension. So we're going to unplug that. Alright, so now we have 2 extensions of splitters out of the way. Get rid of the stuff we don't need. Alright, now this fan cable, it's going to plug into a port down here on the other side on the motherboard. So I need to get the cable to be down there from up here. Looks like straight down this side over here is going to be the way to do that. Well, I will tidy that up later. In the moment, I'm just going to stick this cable through the hole so that I can get to it on the other side. Let's put it through this Velcro. Keep it from wandering off. Okay, so that's a start. Now the front fans, they plug in on the side of the motherboard, somewhere over here, I think towards the bottom. So that's going to be all of these. And they're all plugged into this extension, and I do actually want that because there's 3 front fans, and I'm going to plug them into one plug on the motherboard. Now I checked, I can do that because each fan takes 0.16 amps, and the motherboard connection can power up to 1 full amp, and 0.16 times 3 is considerably less than 1. So that port on the motherboard will safely power everything, no problem. I just have to plug this into it. And I think that's here-ish. Let's set that through there, and we'll get to it on the other side. And then we have this and that. Alright, so this is a whole bunch of cables. What do these do? Okay, so more cables. These are the cables for all the buttons on the front of the case. Well, they're on the top of the case on this model. Okay, what's next here? I guess figuring out what all this stuff is and where to poke it through at. That says USB 2.0, must connect to motherboard. This says USB 2.0. This says HD audio. Front panel, that's going to be your on-off button, things like that. And this is high-speed USB 3.0. Okay, where do these things go? Let me back up here, one at a time. Alright, the fan. Fan is here. The USBs, I don't remember what the book said, but I can pull out the book and look. Alright, this connection here, that I think is power for the smart box, so I don't need that one. For that matter, one of these USBs is the same thing. I need to figure out which one that is and not plug it in. It's probably the one with the single connector. Don't need to plug in something that's not connected to anything. So we're going to look right here. Here it is. So the smart box is right here. There's 2 wires coming out of it. Give myself some room to work with here. Yes, this cable that I pointed at is power for the brain box. And the other cable, try to get it over next to it. It's a round cable. It is this one. So yeah, the USB with the single cable instead of the one with the dual cable. This one is for that little brain box thing, so I don't need that plugged in at all. So this one is the fans. And the fan header is this one right here. All right. So that's fans. And actually, I think I probably want that to go down. I want it to look like this instead of going sideways. think that'll look nicer. But I'm going to leave it there for a minute until I get these other things that go underneath of it plugged in. It's important not to pinch your wires when you're putting zip ties. So you see how that's loose enough it can still move around. There we go. Okay, moving on with the wiring. It's going good so far. Next is this dangly one here. So that's for the other LED strip. Right here. Okay, take the plug off the end. Those are male pins. So one end of this will be female. That one. Alright, don't need those caps. We'll put them back in the bag here. Looks like there's also an LED extension cable in here, in case you want to put this somewhere else in the case. You might want a little more cable. Alright, so I'll plug this in, and it is actually magnetic. Now I think this red stuff would come off and it's sticky, so you could stick it down, but the magnet's good enough for me. It's a metal case. So I want it along this side here. Yeah. And the extra wire has to poke through this hole. Guess I need to watch those holes there for that front panel. Make sure I'm not interfering with anything I need. Alright, front panel is this one, and I believe it goes like this. I do see now which holes were used. Maybe I want to move this inward just a little. There we go. Alright, that won't interfere with the front cover going on at all. Alright, let's show you what we have so far. Alright. USB 3. Make sure that's nice and snug. Goes around here. That's going to be hidden by the chrome panel. We have the, get my hand out in front of it. We have the fan and the front panel connector. They both go down. We have the USB 2 connector. It goes down. We have the rear fan connector. It goes down, and the audio connector for the front panel, it goes down. And then at the top here, this is the LED RGB connector. It goes up and through that hole. Yeah, it's going through this hole. And then we have clear over in that back corner, there's the rear fan wire that goes around the back so that it can come up from the bottom. Oh, and we have the CPU fan in there, which was difficult to get to. Over here on the front, that white strip is the LED strip. And it's connected right here. All right, get it turned around. Here's what the back looks like. All those wires that came down and were tucked in the bag here, I've routed them, different directions just to use up the slack wire. and they go to their connections. So pretty straightforward. This one right here is the not used USB connection for the unused fan and LED intelligent box. And that's about it. Aura on off. Here we go. This is for the LED lights. All on. That sounds good. Looks like it's already on. The RGB, which is red, green, blue, LEDs, light emitting diodes. Alright, now I installed them. They were already pre-installed up here at the top. I guess you can't see that on the camera. Let's pan up here. Alright, here you can see those little white squares up here. Alright, so those are diodes. They emit light. And there's also a strip right here. And these are NZXT brand LEDs, the same as the case. They came with the case, so I figured I'd try to use them. Alright, so here is what's going on with those. They have a 4-pin connector, and I plugged them into the 4-pin RGB connector on the motherboard because I want to control them with the motherboard instead of the little smart controller brain box thing. Customer reviews say that the board is a much better controller than the CAM software that comes with the case. Alright, so the issue is that these LEDs aren't designed to work with this motherboard. Now they will work, they're just not designed to work. So here's what's going on. The motherboard has 2 ports that are 4-pin LED, and they are 12 volt. And it also has 2 ports that are 3-pin LED, and those are 5 volt. The LEDs that came with the case are 4-pin, and they are 5 volt. So they don't exactly match up. It's not plug and play. So I have them currently plugged in. If you recall, they're plugged in up at the top here, right here, just above that red 40. There's a connector. And I have them plugged in right there. That's one of the 12 volt RGB headers with 4 pins. You know, 4 pins on the LED, 4 pins on the board. Look like it went together. It's labeled RGB LED, so turns out that doesn't work. I get 2 that light up on the top left side, and that's it. So what actually needs done is that these 5 volt LEDs need plugged in to the 5 volt connector on the motherboard. That seems pretty straightforward, but you have to know. Okay, the part about it that's not so straightforward is that one of the pins is in a different position. So the ports in the motherboard are 3-pin and the LEDs themselves are 4-pin. I really only need 3 of the pins to make them work. The other one I don't need. The issue is that the pins aren't all in the same place. So basically pin 3 and pin 4 need swapped. I can't do that on the motherboard, obviously, but I can do it on the little wiring connector that's plugged in over here. So what I need to do is turn the computer off, unplug that, because you don't want to be messing with it with the power on. You're not supposed to. It'd probably be fine, but you know, you're not supposed to, so let's not. We're going to unplug that after turning the computer off, and then that little connector there, those connectors snap in and out of that plastic thing, and if I can get something small in there to release the connector, I can just swap them within the connector, and then I'll put them back in where I need them to be, and then I'll plug it into the 3-pin port probably down at the bottom left, because I can't plug them into the same place. And at that point they should work. So the wiring schematic is in the well, it's not really a whole wiring schematic, it's basically a pin-out diagram, is in the instruction manual for the motherboard. So that's helpful, and there's also a similar pin layout written directly on to the LED strip itself to tell you which one is which. So basically you just match them up and make the wire go where it needs to go. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. I'm going to turn this off, unplug that, take that little connector off, and see if I can swap the pins. And if I can swap the connectors in the cable there, then I will plug it into the other port and turn the computer back on, and we'll see what happens. Okay, here we are back around the other side of the case. This is the back side that's normally covered up. Now, this right here, this is nothing. That's the power cable for the USB, or for the brain box thing that I'm not using. So, like I mentioned before when I was assembling the computer, this is nothing. It's just here, tucked out of the way. This right here is what we're messing with. So this is the connector for the LEDs. And I mean, I know my camera's not going to focus on this very well, but we have 4 wires. They're in order in the ribbon here, and they went into the connector in the same way so that the wires were nice and flat. And one of these is marked with a white tracer on the wire. That's the power wire. And for the other ones, that's number 1. It's fine. Number 2 is fine. Number 3 needs to be in the number 4 position, and the number 4 wire is not used. So there's a little prong on these connectors, and I pushed it down with a screwdriver. Now there's a special tool that you use to release those, but I didn't have it handy, so I just used a screwdriver. It works fine. You just have to be careful. Okay, so I undid the little prong and slid the connectors out of the plastic. Now basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the screwdriver to bend the little prong back up again, because I bent it down a little to get it out, and I want it to lock the connector in position when I put it back in the plastic housing. So we're just going to bend that up a hair. It doesn't take much. It's a pretty thin metal, so being careful here because I don't want to go too far with it. Okay, we'll see if that works. Alright, now the goal here is to put this number 3 wire in the number 4 slot. That's the wire that we want. It just pushes in, and it should clip into place. I could hear it. You probably didn't hear it. Alright, and when I try to pull it out, it doesn't come out. That means the little tab works. Now this other wire is not really used for anything, but I'm going to shove it into this other hole that's doesn't have a pin on the motherboard, just to keep it from flopping around. There we go. Alright, now it's locked in place. So all the wires are in place. Basically, I just crossed those 2 wires. Okay, now when I plug it in, it should work, but I have to plug it in to the 5-volt port because it's a 5-volt LED, not to the 12-volt port. Now, this doesn't reach the connector because of the way I routed the cables here. So what I have There we go. What I have is an extension cable. It came with the device so that I could route it wherever I wanted, and apparently I'm going to need to use it. So let's see, we'll get the right end. Alright, that end has pins, and it has an arrow on it. That's going to indicate the power. Okay. And then the other end has the arrow, which indicates power, and it's going to go down to the bottom and come up from the bottom and plug into the front of the board. And then we're going to go back around to the front and turn the machine on and see if it works. Okay, here we are back around the front, and here's the cable. We have the arrow on the left, and the power pin is on the left, so we just need to plug that in. It's a little difficult to see and reach. There we go. Once the pins line up, it slides right in. Okay, let me tuck that cable down there a little bit. And assuming this works, I'll do a little cable routing on the back and put the back panel back on in just a minute. But first, let's power up and see if it comes on. Now the LEDs won't light until the operating system is actually active. At least the ones I just plugged in won't. Okay, the conclusion is that doesn't work. I'm not quite sure why it doesn't work. It's supposed to not have the addressable feature when you convert these NZXT LEDs over to work with the ASUS motherboard. They would just all light up the same color. Now they still flash on and off, or do whatever you have it programmed to do, but they're all on or off at the same time, and they're all the same color. I could have lived with that. That would have been fine for me. But it's not working. So, apparently, I'm not going to get these LEDs to work with this motherboard. I would need to get some LEDs that are designed to work with this motherboard. And that's fine. It's not that big of a deal. So, I'm going to unplug these LEDs, and I'm going to swap that pin back over to its original position, and probably uninstall them from the case to make room for some other couple LED strips that I get in the future. Not super important, just cosmetic, but I wanted to go over it. You have to pay attention to which ones of these you get. The other option would be I should be able to plug in the 2 more wires to the motherboard for the little smart box and route these through the smart box, and it will convert the info to make this work. But I've seen enough people trying to avoid using that smart box and complaining about it and things that I would just as soon have all the LEDs controlled in one place by the motherboard and continue avoiding using that little feature. So that's where this is at. I may do another update in the future when I actually install the LEDs, but I'll have to wait for them to get here because I haven't ordered them yet.